Chip and Dale are back on the job in Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, now on Disney Plus, and I've got my review right now. Hello everybody and welcome to my review of the new Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie, which premieres today on Disney Plus. This is not a TV show, this is a movie, and it is directed by Akiva Schaffer of The Lonely Island, whose last film, 2016's pop star Never Stop Never Stopping, is a criminally underrated comedy film that's just now getting its due. The screenplay credit for the movie goes to Dan Greger and Doug Mand, whose last theatrical feature, 2020's Doolittle, was not really an underrated comedy, but it did come out in theaters, barely. And let me say right up front that I was not a big Disney TV show fan when I was growing up. I was more of a Ninja Turtles, Fox Kids guy, so I did not actually watch Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers when I was growing up. I think the biggest exposure that I had to it was the NES game, which was actually a pretty good Nintendo game. So I did not come into this with a lot of expectations or a whole lot of knowledge about the TV show. I knew the very basics about who some of the characters were just from watching it at friends' houses. Funny story though, on a side note, prior to Rescue Rangers, Disney put out a compilation tape of different Chip and Dale cartoons when they were selling a lot of stuff to the home video market, and my grandmother went to the local video store, which is the only place you could buy videos back then, and asked for a Chip and Dale's video for her 4-year-old grandson. Luckily, there was a kindly video store clerk who was able to understand exactly what she was looking for, which was a Chip and Dale video, because if they hadn't, my childhood would have been very different. Like I mentioned before, this is not a revival of the animated series. It's more of a meta comedy, which finds Chip and Dale estranged 30 years after Rescue Rangers was canceled. Chip is working a blue-collar insurance job, and Dale has had expensive 3D surgery and is on the convention circuit trying to relive the glory days. These once close friends seem destined to be estranged forever until animated characters begin disappearing, and when these disappearances hit close to home, Chip and Dale reunite to track down the culprits and save these characters before they meet the unfortunate fate of being bootlegged, having their appearances altered, and being forced to star in knockoff versions of their own movies.
I thought the cops were supposed to serve and protect, not give up and move on.
I'd give anything to make a case against those scum. Sweet Pete's got his fingers in every illegal business from bootlegging to stinky cheese.
Now, I didn't come into this movie with any expectations as a Rescue Rangers fan, but I also didn't come into it with the expectation to be laughing throughout almost the whole thing, which I very much was. Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers is actually one of the best comedies that I've seen this year, and I don't mean comedies in the sense of like, oh, this is funny, it's made for kids, ha ha ha. I mean, this is actually a legitimately really funny movie. One of the biggest strengths I think this movie has is that it is a cross-generational family film. I think for a lot of people my age that do have kids who grew up on the Rescue Rangers show, there are going to be a lot of familiar faces and references that they're going to see and understand. But I think it works well on its own as a family film so that kids that are watching that may not get the references and the different things that are in the movie will just enjoy it on a purely entertainment level. I don't know if you know this about Disney, but they own a lot of stuff, and it would have been very easy for them to stock this entire movie with a menagerie of different Disney characters, which, to be fair, it absolutely does have. There are classic Disney characters, there are modern Disney characters, you name it. But one of the things that also shocked me about this movie is that there is a startling amount of characters from other properties that belong to other studios, and there's no reason for these studios to work together. I actually thought that these days of studio cooperation, where one studio could go to another one and say, hey, I've got a funny joke that I want to use in one of my movies, can we use one of your characters? I didn't think, because they all have different streaming services and they're all in competition with each other, that we would ever see a movie like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit, to which this movie has been compared a lot. But there are so many fun surprise appearances, not just from people that are in the Disney universe, but characters from so many other universes and animated franchises. And there's even one extended cameo that I'm frankly shocked that a rival studio signed off on, because I believe they would have had to, because it is so self-deprecating to that studio. cameo. This really does feel like a Toontown style shared universe where any character could pop up at any time. And the movie has a lot of fun with using all different forms of animation. You have puppetry, you have 2D, you have 3D, you have claymation. It all mixes into a frankly delightful world where cartoon stars and real people live on the same blocks and go to the same schools. It's just a fun world to be a part of. Andy Samberg brings his trademark goofy, and that's the adjective, not the Disney character, energy to the role of Dale. And I think that a lot of people are going to be surprised with just how straight John Mulaney plays Chip, but they bounce off of each other nicely. The voice cast is also stacked with so many other names, including J.K. Simmons, Eric Bana, Seth Rogen, Keegan-Michael Key, Will Arnett, and a lot of other recognizable voices, in addition to a live-action appearance from Kiki Lane, who co-stars as a police ally to the Chipmunks, and some well-timed cameos from familiar faces. I know that Disney is very highly invested in premium streaming content to drive subscriptions to Disney+, but I think they may have really missed out on an opportunity to make a lot of money at the box office with this film, because I think if Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers had come out as a summer movie, it would have made a lot of money. It has that kind of Free Guy energy, but with even more recognizable faces and that same kind of humor. It also almost feels too good to be labeled as a Disney Plus original movie. And I don't mean a Disney Plus original like we got with the Pixar films that they decided not to release into theaters. I mean the movies that were made especially for the streaming service, like the Lady and the Tramp remake that I didn't think really added much to the story that was available when the service launched, or last year's atrocious Home Sweet Home Alone, which I think may have sullied the name of the Disney Plus original for me forever.
I'm sorry.
If you're a fan of the 90s show, there is plenty here to love, and the characters from the show don't receive short shrift. If you like animation in general, particularly from the 90s, you'll be doing the Leo DiCaprio and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood pose throughout this entire film. If you have kids, I think that they'll be entertained, and if you don't have kids and were born before the year 2000, I also think you'll be entertained. I guess the only audience that I think might have a harder time with this would be people that are either too young or too old to understand a lot of the references, and maybe also don't have kids to enjoy it through their eyes. But I also don't think this is exclusively a kids' film. I think even if you don't know the references, there are enough funny jokes about the entertainment industry and about Hollywood, and that are character-driven jokes, that you can enjoy it on that level too. So it's a big recommendation for me for Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, and it just goes to show that you can do a franchise revival / reboot that feels smart and necessary and motivated while giving fans the references that they want without insulting their intelligence. One of my favorite feelings as a critic is to put on a movie that I don't really have a lot of expectations for, negative or positive, and being shocked by how good it is. You can color me shocked by how much I enjoyed Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. It's available now on Disney+. Thanks so much for watching this review. If you want to see even more of what I'm up to, you can check me out on Patreon at patreon.com/Dan Murrell. I also have a review for Downton Abbey, A New Era, a very similar film to Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers that'll be coming out later today, so be sure to check that out. And be sure to stay tuned here on the channel for the latest movie news, reviews, box office, and everything else. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.